We are with Pamela Parks. She's one of our more remarkable teachers in the Educators Network. And we're gonna make here a few questions about, well, first, Pamela, tell us a little bit about your background. How long have you been teaching?
Well, I actually started out as a professional translator, and I did that for many years. And then I took some time off to take care of my kids. And a lot of the places I worked for went out of business in our big economy collapse. So I began teaching. I fell into this job about 5 years ago, but I'd been teaching for about 5 years prior to that. So I'm happy to be here.
How old are your students?
My students are all high school students, anywhere from 9th grade to 12th grade.
And how long have you been using Duolingo with them?
Probably since the last 5 years at this school. As soon as I found out about Duolingo, I was playing with it myself. And you didn't have a Japanese program at the time, but you did have French and Spanish. So yes, from the get-go, I was using Duolingo with them.
Okay, so I have a lot to learn from you, because I think today you were posting, does anybody have the old trees and the flirting, and well, we'll go through that later. So tell me, what do you do to keep your students motivated?
Well, motivation is the key, right? That is the secret to learning a language, because if you don't have the motivation, in any subject, you need that motivation to be interested enough to learn, because without the motivation, you're just not going to apply yourself. You're not going to retain anything. So I do a lot of games, tons and tons of games, try to make it fun, try to always connect things back to the students' personal interest and to their personal experience.
Okay, that's interesting. That's very important. Yeah. So do you use Duolingo for school as is, or do you like the platform provides it, or do you use some out of the box adaptation?
I do a little of both. When I first assign it, it's usually, okay, just get through basics 1 and 2, or get through the introductions and phrases, or whatever the language, because I'm teaching 3 languages. So usually I just say, get through that, get it to red. I want them to get to the red level. And then I'll give you points for that. And then after that, I'm just like, all right, well, just, we got a long weekend coming up. Use it on the long weekend. At least do it 10 points a day. And then I just kind of check our weekly update, because we get an email that says, okay, here's your students' weekly progress report. Or I'll go in and I'll look at the students and I'll just make sure that they do it. And I tell the students, look, it's okay to review. You can do an easy one that you've already done, or you can press on. Either's fine. Senor Gatos on the our Slack website, our education website, he had a great idea of, because we're kind of at a loss of how to use the lingots, and he was talking about a classroom economy with the lingots, and I was like, that's a great idea.
Brilliant.
I'm going to steal that. So thank you, Senor Gatos, because I thought that was really good. So, I can take their lingots and I can trade them in for whatever I want in the classroom. I thought that was a cute idea. Yeah. The other thing I do is, and I was thinking about it.
Who is this Senor Gatos?
I don't know what his real name is. That's the name he's posting under on our education network.
He has a website?
No, I don't know. He's on the Slack.
Oh.
On the Slack thing. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I don't know what his real name is, though. We're all using fake names, right? I'm Madame Sensei.
Yes.
Yeah. So
you teach French?
I teach French, Spanish, and Japanese.
And Spanish. Okay.
Yeah. So this year I started teaching Spanish for the first time, and it seemed a bit long to call me Senora Madame Sensei. So my Spanish students just call me Senora Parks, but yeah.
And so
I got to think about it today, because one of the things I used to do is, especially when the French tree had that flirting section as like the bonus, and I spent my lingots buying that, my French students would see it, and even though maybe they hadn't unlocked it yet, they were super curious. So we began that whole class. I've got mini whiteboards, which are one of the best investments I've ever made. Mini whiteboards, like lots of markers, and the students grab a mini whiteboard, and I'll put it on the screen, and then we'll work through it, each one individually. And even though the flirting section was so silly, I mean, you know how silly that was. now with the updated...
I don't know. Tell me a little bit about that. Because...
Oh, I'm still subscribed to some of the comments. And so, like, I still get all the people arguing about, when would anybody ever say, ton maquillage est d'un grand beauté? Nobody would ever say that.
What does that mean?
Your makeup is very beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
Is that a flirting thing? It almost seems insulting. It's like, you're wearing makeup, because otherwise...
I thought that you just, like, changed subjects and you were like,
That was on the flirting section, though. Okay. And then the Spanish section has this really fun farm thing that they just added, where, I don't know, I think my cat is in the refrigerator is on a different one. But there's silly stuff, And the students like working through that. And even though they might be not advanced enough to get there, it's fun to do whole class because I can work them through the grammar. And then the Duolingo stories, I absolutely love those. But since I only go up to third-year French and first-year Spanish, and we don't have any stories in Japanese yet, unfortunately. But those are just a little too advanced for my students, so those are great to work through whole class. Yeah.
So yes, the Spanish stories are fantastic. I really like
and the French stories are the same ones translated, and I love the Duolingo stories.
Yeah, well, we'll get there. There are so many languages and so many pairs, right? Then you have to do, like French, Japanese, and so yeah. But we'll get there. So, Pam, tell me, is there any secret that you use to get the most out of the platform?
I don't think there's any secret. I mean, Duolingo is a tool like anything else, and you don't want to ever attach yourself to just one thing and stay with it, because you don't know what's going to speak to all the students. I mean, everybody's brain is different. Everyone's wired differently. So with Duolingo, it's fun. So that keeps the kids engaged and it keeps them motivated. And what I also really like about Duolingo is that the progress is really easy to see. I mean, you finish the skill set, it changes color, you can test out, you can move on to the next skill set, you can see what the next skill sets are coming up, even though they're grayed out. So that's a real motivator for the students, just to see kind of, hey, I feel accomplished, I finished this thing, and I'm moving on to the next thing now.
You just inspire me, and that's something I also interview Kathy Shock. You might have seen her. She's always in Slack. And now I think this is important for the people, the other teachers who are gonna see this this recording. What do you think more comfortable with, making assignments with units or XPs?
I've done both. So when I assign the units, and it's hard to tell what level they've gotten to when I assign the units. So that's a little frustration now that the tree has changed and everything. But I do assign the units, and then when I assign XP, I just go through and look, and it takes a while because I gotta look at each student individually and see have they done it.
Tell me a little bit more about that. How it used to be and how is now that it makes it a little more difficult.
I think before, I'm trying to remember because it's been a while since my tree changed. And then I have the challenge of some of my students are still working on the old tree.
Okay.
So I assigned like food last month because we were getting ready to play restaurant, thinking, oh, it should be easy for them to get to because it's only 5 up there now. But I had some students that where food was much later on the tree, and I didn't realize it in a timely way. So I was like, oh, okay, so you're fine. We'll work together. But I think before it was easier to tell, oh, hey, you've gotten it to the 2nd level.
Okay.
But now I just assign the skill, and I don't know if they've done it the first time through and it's just green now, or if they've done it again and it's red. It would be nice to be able to assign a color associated with the skill.
Okay.
Because we're working our way through the rainbow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then XP, it would be super nice to say, I'm assigning, whatever, 10 points a day or whatever.
But my understanding is that you can do that, like assigning 10 XP, or can't you?
Oh, I think I just haven't played with it, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
It's been a busy semester for me.
So, All right. Well, but it's great. I want to hear it because this is not just for, like, praise what's good, but it
Right.
also help us to see what
works.
do better.
Yeah.
Well, you just said, my question was, do you integrate the platform into the classroom, like with the projector? But I guess you just answered that with the whiteboards.
We've also just gone one-to-one this year with students and computers.
Okay.
This is new for us, and it's a little glitchy, but because we're doing all the easy vocabulary tests, they're just, mostly I like my students to be talking, or if I give a written test, I want them to give an answer, a short answer, or a paragraph, so they're actually using the language. But if we're just learning vocabulary, or we're just, learning the verbs or some conjugations, I can give that on a computer form that I've made. And then when the students are done with that, while they're waiting for the other students to catch up, I'm like, hey, go noodle around on Duolingo. So they do have their computers, and they do Duolingo at home. But then, during the classroom, I don't really like them working individually because it's a language classroom, and language is all about communication. So, as much as possible, we're up on our feet walking around and talking.
So I know that your students are high school students, but how advanced are they?
Well, I only, like Spanish, I'm only teaching first year Spanish. French, I teach first, second, third year. Japanese, I do have a wide range, but they're all in one classroom. Very few of my students are fluent. Very few, because I don't get up to that level. And occasionally I do have a fluent student who takes the class for the easy A. So, but mostly students come to me knowing zero. They know nothing. They walk in the door, and a lot of students walk in and immediately they think it's hard. Immediately they come in and they say, oh, this is too difficult. I'm just taking this so I can get into college. And so you've got to spend a lot of time disarming that. You've got to lower their affective filter, as we say in linguistics. We've got to teach them to have, the big thing now is the growth mindset, but we linguists have always known about that. You've got to convince the students that they are capable of this.
Right.
That they've got to approach it like a giant puzzle. They can look for patterns and make it quicker, and that's where all the games come in.
Do you think that like establishing an emotional connection with you?
Oh, quite definitely.
Yes.
You got to have an emotional connection with the students. You have to have an emotional connection with the subject matter. So you've got to love the language you're teaching. You've got to love the culture. You can't take culture out of the language. It would sound weird. Like I always tell my students, like in French, if I have a steak and I'm like, oh, this is the most delicious steak I've ever eaten in my life. If I say, oh my gosh, this steak is delicious, it's fabulous, any native French speaker is going to think you're lying, because that's not part of the culture. They wouldn't say that in a huge way. They'd be downplayed about it. Okay, in Japanese, you might think, whoa, I'm great, I just aced the test. You can't brag about yourself in Japanese. You're going to sound egotistical.
Right.
Not to understand the culture.
That's true.
And you've got to appreciate the culture. So you can't take that out of the language. It would be meaningless. You could know every single word, but if you don't know the culture, you're just not communicating.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a valuable piece of advice, really. And it's just to end, any other advice, suggestion, a highlight of your career, something that you want to share?
Every time I see the light bulb go off over the students' heads, that's my highlight. Suggestions. Okay, so on the Chinese Duolingo forum, there's a lot of complaints on, oh, this isn't teaching Chinese. Well, no, Duolingo isn't teaching. It's a tool. You're supposed to use everything you can and pull in everything. Your brain is more complex than just one thing. You've got to have textbooks. You've got to have teachers. You've got to have people to talk to. We've got, oh my gosh, we're living in such a great age. I mean, I'm almost 50 years old. I mean, 50 next week. When I first started learning other languages, we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have Wikipedia. We didn't have.
I'm turning 43 next week.
I mean, we didn't have, the world is at our fingertips now. I mean, it's so amazing. It's so easy to learn language now.
Do you remember going to this huge dictionary?
Yes, my expensive dictionaries I bought, yes, language lab with the headphones and the reel-to-reel tapes that we'd use. Yeah. But it's so easy now to learn a language. And what I love about Duolingo is when you go to the comments section, there's all these suggestions of, oh, hey, I just saw this video here. Oh, I'm using this over here. You know, there's a real community of learners on Duolingo, which I think, you know, we need to talk up the rest of Duolingo, not just the click here, add this word, you know, fill in blank here and make a sentence and type your sentence and all that. There's so much more to it. And there's so much more to language learning than just one tool. Don't get stuck on one thing. Everyone is wired differently. Some people are going to need to listen more. Some people are going to need to talk more. And, you know, communication has all those things. It has listening, it has reading, it has writing, it has speaking. We need to hit all of those.
All right. Well, Pam, like, I'm going to stop the recording.
Oh my gosh.
Stay here. We can stay here and chat. Thanks so much. I think you really brought up, like, topics that are worth to keep talking about. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored that you chose me to talk to. So thank you.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about what was your teacher background, the students you teach, how old are they, how long have you been teaching?
Okay. So this is my 23rd year teaching. I started in a kindergarten through 5th grade elementary school program doing German. It was a German immersion program. I saw every student in the school 30 minutes a day and was not allowed to speak English at all. So that was yeah, so that was really fun. And I did that for 4 years, and then unfortunately the program got cut for funding reasons. And then I moved to high school German, which is the most common. And I taught for 15 years total down in Georgia, doing German there. And then we moved back to Pennsylvania 8 years ago. I did 1 year of middle school German. And that was the only year I feel like I need to do middle school German. Middle school students are really wild. And I've been at the high school now for another 7 years.
Tell us, I know that you are a master at this. The other day you were telling me about this, not the strudels, the other thing you get them. So tell us, how do you keep your students motivated?
So this is the first year that I have really, I worked over the summer to kind of form a plan for how I could integrate Duolingo into my classroom. Because obviously I have a curriculum that I follow from our school district, but I can really see the value of the practice and repetition that Duolingo gives. And I didn't want my students to see it as another assignment.
Right.
So I formed, you know, a plan of action that has kind of changed now and evolved as I've found out more and more about Duolingo, especially through this educator network. And I just went into day one almost like a crazy person about Duolingo. Like, I'm always talking about how much I love Duolingo and how exciting it is. And I started putting the little Duolingo owl into exercises that we're doing on the smart board. Even if it's not anything Duolingo, he's up there saying in German, like, I believe in you and you can do it and you're the best. And just really trying to get them to embrace the idea that Duolingo is not something hard that they have to do out of class, because it's going to help support everything that we do. So I just try to be super excited about it. And like when the stickers and pencils came, I was like, oh my gosh, look at these great stickers that we got, guys. And I was excited about it. And of course, there's always students who aren't excited, but I just try to really keep my enthusiasm level up, because I do think it's such a great resource. I think back to my early years teaching when I just had a chalkboard and no technology.
Right.
You know,
sad. Remember those days? I remember.
Yeah, dictionaries you had to flip through and look words up. And I want them to realize how great a resource this is and how much it just can help them be better in class. So really just being kind of that cheerleader in the classroom and saying positive things about it all the time.
Yes, and I wanted to ask you, like, do you use the platform as is, or you, like, I think I've seen your contributions to our, like, folder with material crafted by yourself with, so can you tell us a little bit about how do you manage this balance between, okay, what, you know, the platform offers, and how do you reach that?
Yeah, so one of the things that I worked on over the summer was deciding by grade level that I teach what would be a fair amount of XP to assign. So in Duolingo schools, I assign my German 3 students 100 XP a week.
800?
100 XP a week. And then German 4 gets 150 XP a week, and AP is my highest group. They get 200 XP a week.
Okay.
So that's the basis that I use Duolingo schools for. So I can just click and I give them a week. They get till midnight, from midnight to midnight on Sunday to the next Sunday to do that. So that's really great because I can just set it up.
What happens if the student either like fulfill the task or if they don't fulfill it? What happens?
So it's a minor grade. I just make it a 25-point homework assignment, and in my class, 25 points as a homework assignment isn't much. So if they don't do it, they get the 0, but it really doesn't affect their overall grade much. It's more of just that motivation to do the practice outside of class. And then I've also been using it to assign skills. Since the students are having to work linearly through the tree, by having Duolingo skills, I can go, okay, we just worked on the past tense in class. I can assign that skill and it opens up that one thing maybe further down the tree than a student.
Okay.
So that's really nice. There might be some vocabulary in there that they're unfamiliar with because they haven't gotten to that skill.
Right.
But they can float over those words, which is the great thing about Duolingo. Learn a new word and practice the grammar skill. So that has been really fantastic. The one drawback to assigning a skill is that it just gets them to level up one time. And I usually want them to get to like level 3 or level 5. So the nice thing in Duolingo schools is it has a progress monitor, and I can see by color coding what level they've gotten to. So my AP students, I recently assigned them to get to Crown level 5, and I could just look down the list and see made it. Oh, only went to level 3, so they get a slightly lower grade. Made it. And all of that is viewable in Duolingo schools, which is really, really nice.
Excellent. So, I'm glad it's working out for you. It makes me happy because from this end, sometimes I do things like pretending, right? Pretending having students, pretending.
Right.
It's limited what you can really test, but you have an actual, like, real life experience with it.
Yes.
And so I'm learning a lot from you. Yeah. And so do you use also the stories or the podcast?
The podcasts are only in Spanish from what I've seen so far. So we haven't been able to do those. I am doing the stories, and I've got my fingers crossed, oder durch die Daumen, as we say in German, that I'll be able to assign them like officially in Duolingo schools at some point. Right now, I've just been asking my students to do the next story. So every week they do a story and they send me a screenshot that they finished the story.
Okay.
And I use a different learning management tool that they send so that we have for our school district. And they just send me their screenshot so that I can keep track of their progress there. You know, my hope is, I know Duolingo schools has only been around a year or so. So I know it's growing and changing.
I'm sure we are gonna go through some obstacles now that it has to be with developing, right? But it will improve for sure. And this presentation that we are making now with our grade teachers, experts, it's probably gonna help in that direction. I would like also to hear what's the thing that you really wish Duolingo had, that the most remarkable thing that you feel like, oh darn it, it's not there.
I would love to have more opportunities for them to hear native speakers, but that is such a hard thing. So I know they have the podcast for Spanish. That would be amazing. Even just, short 1-2 minute things that maybe with some questions about it. So similar to the stories, but things that they have to strictly listen to.
Right.
Because even with the Duolingo stories, they can read along. And listening is such a hard skill. It's such a hard skill to teach because all they ever hear is me. And if they go to Germany, I'm not probably going to be the one talking to them.
Right.
So, but that would be a huge world for Duolingo to step into, to try to bring in those, because you want them to be authentic. You want them to be native speakers.
Mm-hmm.
And that is quite an obstacle. So,
yep.
And
they are working on that, by the way. Like they are creating like chats. Like I have, at least I was doing English, I believe, or Italian, and it pop up because that's the other thing. Like the progress in different courses are not the same. Some have some features, maybe German doesn't have it, and I have a pop up that somebody wants to talk to me through the platform, through Duolingo.
Okay.
Like a native, Italian person was willing to talk to me.
Okay.
Practice, and I was in the bed. Here was a mess, and I didn't because I didn't know if we'll come with camera.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I'd click on that either.
But they are working on that, and it's great that you say it because who knows who's gonna see this video? It might go very high up, and things change. And I have a few more questions for you, and then I will let you go to, I'm sure you have to do like.
Yeah, I was doing work when we started, so.
Yes, it will take a few more minutes. So.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Any secret to get the most out of the platform? Anything that you say, oh, I've figured out this.
Okay. Students are often motivated by prizes, even tiny prizes. So, I've been trying to come up with contests and things to keep them motivated. So one thing that I shared on the board, I made like a spreadsheet to keep track of things. And for every 1,000 XP my students they get a homework pass. And they love those. Those are like, I could give them a homework pass or a chocolate bar, and most of them would choose a homework pass.
Okay, so that means that they don't have to do homework that day.
They don't have to do a section. So they have a weekly homework packet, so they don't get out of the whole packet, but they can exempt a section. So, and then they get to choose, like, oh, this section looks really hard. I'm going to use my Duolingo homework pass
for that one.
Yeah. So I did that for 1,000 XP for 50 crowns, and then also for 25-day streak. I've only had 2 students keep up the streak, so I might next year change it to a 10-day streak. To make it more reachable. For February, we're going to do a contest where February 1st, so this Friday, anybody who wants to participate is going to show me we're going to look at their XP right then, write it down, and then we're going to go to March 1st. And I'm hoping to find, I don't know, I'm going to look around for maybe an online digital like leaderboard that I can make, or I'll make something, and the winner in each class who gets the most XP in February will win a prize, and depending on how that goes, I might start doing that. And that can be a bag of German gummy bears, or something minor. Homework passes, of course, again, they love. But that's the big thing, I think, is that when I put those extra incentives out, like the kids kind of like, and I think it's going to motivate them to do a little bit more and spend a little more time practicing with Duolingo on their phone or their computer, whatever, and they're practicing German, which is, you know, super exciting, and that's what I want them to want to do outside of class. They don't want to do their homework assignment. You know, they don't want to do their homework packet, but if playing on Duolingo gets them something, then I think they're more likely to do it. So again, the enthusiasm and coming up with some incentives if you want to push them beyond, you know, the lowest level. So that's what I've been really trying to do, is find those things. I made a wall of fame with some OWL notepads that I got, and so if they get 10,000 XP, they go on the wall of fame, and just things like that to motivate them to work harder and work more at it. So
your kids are grown up. I mean, they are like young men and women, right? In their 20s.
Oh no, these are high school students. So they're 15,
high school.
16,
okay, well,
17 years old. But yeah.
Do you use Duolingo in the classroom, like with the projector, or that's something that you think is more like for little children? I'm sure you don't use tiny cards, probably.
No, I don't. Mainly the only thing, if I bring it up in the classroom, I don't necessarily bring it up on the board, but I give them time sometimes in class. You know, we finish 10 minutes early and I really want you to work on this skill. And so at our school, all of the students have a laptop. So it's really nice because I can say, open up your laptops and work on Duolingo for the next 10 minutes. I was out sick last week and I was able to just leave, you know, as I'm sick and not really thinking about lesson plans. I was like, oh, they can work on Duolingo.
Right.
And Sub said, you know, they were all on their laptops and they're doing Duolingo and working through. So that's really the most that I do in class, because we do have a really deep curriculum of stuff that I have to do in class. So most of the Duolingo is outside of class, which is why I try to have the prizes for them.
It's good. It's like your teacher substitute.
Yeah. So, and it was kind of, you know, on Friday I was feeling a little better, but I still wasn't at school, and I had Duolingo schools open, and I was, as each class would have been working, I was refreshing my screen to kind of watch and see, were they making progress, were they working, and they were. So it was kind of fun. I could look at the progress and see, oh yeah, that one made it to level 5, yes. So awesome. But that was from home in pajamas, you know, but it was really nice to be able to use.
You should do it more often.
Yeah. I'm not sure if my principal would like that or not. So, but it's so nice that it's there. And I hope to just, you know, keep coming up with other ideas and other things that we can do. You guys shared with us the characters, like it was a file with all the character pictures, like little icons of the chef and the pilot. And I was thinking, I've got an idea going in my head about turning those into cards and doing a speed dating activity. If you know speed dating, I was going to have the kids make up who this person is and some information about them.
Okay.
And then do it like a speed dating, and they have to go like rotate around the room, but they get to be the person, the Duolingo cook that they chose, or the Duolingo pilot that they chose. And
yeah.
And what do they like to do in their free time? Again, just drawing in that little thing. I could use pictures of real people. They could just be themselves, but I think it's fun bringing in those extra pieces. And it reinforces, hey, that's the guy I saw on my exercise on Duolingo last night.
The guy who says like weird things.
Yeah.
Some of the Duolingo sentences are like
really weird.
With this idea.
Yeah. Yeah, all of my German 4 students, because I just had them do common phrases, and one of the phrases it kept saying in German was, well, yeah, I like cats. And so now that's all they're saying in German. They're like, na ja, ich mag Katzen. And they just keep saying it and I was like, well, if nothing else, they remember well, and I like, and they can fill in a noun.
There you go. Mission
Be,
accomplished.
yeah, but some of the sentences are very weird. Like owls that talk don't bite is one of the sentences that comes up. Right. Duolingo has 20 airplanes or something like that. So, but I think it's fun, and those are the kind of things I like to give them too. Is weird sentences. Just it makes it less tedious that they're doing language practice when something fun like that pops up. So, I mean, I used a sentence with vocab in my class that was, a cow appeared in the school. And they're like, why would a cow be in the school? I said, I don't know. Let's imagine why there's a cow in the school. But it was more fun than,
involves all the neurons in our brain, and there's more electrical activity, and it's ultimately it plays out well for the learning process. I think that introducing game into the learning activity is key, and it's a great idea, and it's very smart. Yeah. So let me ask you the last question. Advice for your college, for the other teachers, anything?
Yeah, I'm constantly, I feel like a broken record in our department meetings, because I'm always like, oh, and by the way, let me talk about Duolingo a little, because I'm trying to get the other people in my department, more on board. Some of them will be like, oh yeah, I tell them about Duolingo, but we don't really use it. Or yeah, I just use it if I'm out one day. So I've been trying to really be a cheerleader. So I took some of the Duolingo stickers to the last department meeting and was like, anybody want a Duolingo sticker? I think I'll bring pencils to the next one. And so I think just try it. I think that if teachers try it, they're going to be so thrilled at what it can bring to their students, progress, that they'll wonder, like I do, what I did before this year. Like what did I do before I had Duolingo for my students to practice those old skills? And most of them had never used it before this year, so they're starting at basics, and that's okay. They can test out if they want to, or work through them, lesson by lesson. And it's like, maybe in German 3, they've forgotten how to tell time, or they've forgotten colors. And so what's the harm in having them do this? So that is my hope, is that if I just keep telling my department chairs, if I go to a conference or something and can represent you guys and talk to other teachers about how I've been using it and these great things that I do, I would love to do that, because I just see all these benefits already happening with my students, and everybody can do it. So
you Katie, you are like a key element. You and all the other teachers, you help us. I think together we will make this platform much more like perform to a much higher level. We hear your every time. Sometimes changes doesn't happen like it, in very short periods of time.
It takes time.
But there are people. We have a staff that works for Duolingo for schools, that we are very, very invested with our teachers. And we really want to do this platform like a spaceship, right? And we will get there. And well, I want to thank you for your support. You are one of our most referent of a teacher. So
thank you.
We want to thank you. And well, I'm gonna let you go. My telephone. I'm gonna let you go now. At least for the video, we can stay here and chat a little bit more.
Okay.
Thank you. Hello, Kristen. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm fine. How are you?
Very well, very well. So, Kristen, can you help me with your last name?
Sure. It's pronounced Mazafari.
Mazafari.
Uh-huh.
Thanks for being part of this presentation for the teachers who starting with our platform for schools. And tell us a little bit about where are you from? How long have you been using Duolingo?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm pretty much originally from the Phoenix, Arizona area. Grew up here. Been here for a very long time. Kind of over the heat because it's way too much.
I lived 7 years in Las Vegas, so I know.
Oh, you understand. It's almost exactly the same. You know.
I know.
I first started using Duolingo actually like a long time ago in like 2012, I think. And then I took a break for a while for personal reasons. And then I got back into it. I'm on like over a 600-day streak right now. So almost 2 years ago again, I think.
Mm-hmm. And you were telling me the other day that right now you are not in a school setting, but you can you explain me again how are you using Duolingo for schools now?
Yeah, well, I did used to teach high school ESL, and we had like a technology disadvantaged school in lower income area, so I couldn't, we didn't have computers available for students to use, but I do teach English online now to mostly adult learners, and I'm actually hoping to use Duolingo Classroom to help facilitate their learning in that regard. So I'm trying to come up with like a customized plan for people to help guide them with their usage of Duolingo, and then focus, of course, on speaking and listening skill practice. I also use it as an event host, so I host events with Duolingo, and I have a classroom set up that anybody who attends our events can join. And then if we're looking at practicing, for example, past tense conjugation for Spanish, I can assign it to them, and then if they aren't that far along in the tree yet, they can access that lesson and get some practice with Duolingo first before the event, so that they're a little more comfortable with it.
And you're teaching Spanish?
So I'm also still a learner, but I'm hosting for Spanish and Japanese, and also now Korean. But my Korean is non-existent so far. But Spanish is by far my most popular event. So usually have at least 15 people come twice a month, and we practice. So some of it's based on what they're learning on Duolingo, and some of it we're supplementing the learning as well.
Mm-hmm. And so, but do you use Duolingo when you were teaching at the high school? Did you use Duolingo for schools, or it was before that time?
That was like before. That was a few years ago, and a lot of the students, because we were in like a lower income area, a lot of the students didn't have mobile devices, and the computers that we had at the school were not sufficient to really do anything with. But if I were to go back and teach students again that type of setting, I would definitely like 100% be using Duolingo. And I do have teachers in our family. My sister is a vice principal in the school, and I certainly encourage them to use it. So anytime something new comes up or interesting, I always send it their way with like a little hint, like, hey, this is a really great resource.
It is. So, Kristen, I'm curious about, so now this new stage in your life when you are teaching, hosting events online and teaching, I think you say English, right? Twice a month. How do you do it? Through like a Hangout on Google? And how do you incorporate Duolingo that is also, it requires like a software host? Like how do you organize all those digital resources at once?
Oh, sure, yeah. Well, the events that we do is just like the volunteer basis. So the events with Duolingo are a little bit separate. I use the classroom just to help people prepare for the events. With the English teaching that I do, it's more one-on-one, so we'll use like Skype or Zoom primarily, and so I'm trying to create something that's a little more customized for my students, based of course on their level, and especially using the Duolingo classroom, I can create like a customized curriculum for people depending on the level that they're at, and then they can practice that as sort of like homework. And then we can have our discussions and practice speaking. We can practice speaking and listening skills, of course. And having the like the word list available is also extremely helpful, because then I know what vocabulary to focus on, that sort of thing.
And so you say that you are teaching adults, correct?
Yeah, primarily. I have applied with a couple of companies to teach children as well, and that would depend upon like that particular company's requirements. But if I can incorporate it with the children, then I'll do that also, of course. But there are fewer restrictions when teaching adults.
Yes. And so how do you, like, because they are adults, should we assume that they are self-motivated, or you need to implement strategies to keep them motivated?
I think the biggest thing, a lot of people are self-motivated, but they lack guidance or knowledge on how to best use the resources that are available to them. And in that regard, the classroom is really beneficial, because I can assign things in order, or with different dates or different skills on the tree, in order for them to focus on that particular aspect of the language. And that idea just kind of comes from my own learning as a self-learner, and the struggles that I have faced trying to learn languages completely on my own without guidance is extremely difficult. So most people are self-motivated, and they have the desire. They either want to improve their life, like their lifestyle, their socioeconomic status.
Do you incorporate like in the content and in the lessons that you are looking through, like a reminder of why are they doing this? Why are they taking the huge enterprise of trying to learn a language?
Could you say the first part of that one more time? Sorry.
So when you, like, let's say you propose text for reading, do you use okay, here's the advantage, like how economically it can improve your life, so like a reminder of why they are doing it?
It's always good to talk about what their motivations are. I don't think that I've ever had a conversation with anybody where I've had to like prompt them on like what what it could be. But if I know what their motivations are, then that helps me to focus on which aspect of the language to pay more attention to.
Right.
If somebody's just interested for cultural purposes, then that's a completely different way of learning than somebody who wants to learn very proper English, for job, to be able to attain a job, that sort of thing. So I do, of course, always talk to people about why they want to learn it, but I try to keep it a little more surface level. Yeah.
And so, well, you were like mentioning that you Zoom. How do you do? Because there might be some teachers who intend to do what you do, right, in a volunteering basis, or like as a mean of life.
Right.
Do you share when you use Zoom that allows you to share the screen, do you like make a pause and play the Duolingo lesson, and then like go back to it and kind of analyze or talk about, just watch? How do you do it?
I haven't done that yet, although it's an interesting idea. I've more used like the classroom to assign the skills for them to practice in between our lessons. so that they're more prepared for the talking and listening that we do over Zoom. Everybody's different though, and if they wanted to do something like that, I certainly wouldn't be opposed to it, of course. But I think for anybody who is paying for my time, I don't know if that would be like the best usage of it, unless they needed help going through something, or if they wanted to share their screen, they were stuck on something, or they had a question about a particular sentence, why is the grammar this way? We all have questions like that when we're learning, and we could certainly do that.
Okay, sounds very interesting. It's a completely different use of the platform than the other teachers I talked to before. But it's good because it shows you the versatility, the many ways to use it. It's very interesting. And do you have any secret of how to get the most out of the platform, or it works for you?
These secrets. I can't think of anything in particular at the moment.
You don't have to.
Yeah, sorry. I can't think. If I think of anything, though, I'll share it.
I know. This is the type of question that always catches me. Like,
yeah, no.
But any suggestion or advice for other teachers who might not be using the platform in a school setting?
I think it's such a great resource, and the way that things are tracked and assigned, it's very easy to do, it's very user-friendly, and I can't imagine being an ESL teacher or any language teacher that uses Duolingo in the classroom and not using the classroom software that you guys have available, because it is so easy to use, and being able to assign like XP points versus skills or however you want to do it. There's a lot of flexibility there that can really make it easy for somebody to incorporate into their classroom. And it's just like another tool at your disposal, and like a free tool at your disposal. So free is like always good when you're a teacher, right?
Yeah.
So I think maybe some people might be intimidated by technology, or they're nervous about learning something new, but it's such an easy to use platform that it's definitely worth trying, because it's so easy to use, and it's easy for the students to use, of course. I would say just try it, honestly. Like I said, I think sometimes people are just intimidated by technology. They assume that something is going to be difficult before they try it, and so that maybe turns them off a little bit, or they think, oh, it's just like another thing for me to keep track of, but it's so simple to use.
Then I know I'm going off script.
That's okay.
But I'm going to change any secret to get the most out of Duolingo for. Is there anything that you really wish that the platform offered to the teacher? Something that you are like, darn it, I wish I could do this, and it's not present in the program.
Actually, really glad you asked that. Yeah, the ability to assign other aspects of Duolingo would be amazing. So to be able to incorporate tiny cards and assign that would be huge for me, or the podcast or the stories. And I know those aren't available in all languages, of course, but they're such like amazing tools that Duolingo has provided, and you learn so much with them, and to be able to track that would be huge, I think, for teachers, and even for someone like me who's like for the events, and being able to give people access to it, and they can track it to see how they're doing in comparison to what I would like them to be at, because everybody is at different levels, of course, but one thing I've noticed is that a lot of the people who come to my events, they're like, Duolingo podcast, what is that? Like, they've never heard of it, or they've never heard of tiny cards. And sometimes I will make tiny cards specific for the event that we're doing, or specific for a particular point that I want somebody to learn. So then it'd be nice to be able to track that through the classrooms and award credit for it.
You are so resourceful. I love your contributions. Like everybody loves your the portraits of the characters, and I'm sure your students are very lucky to have you. And I really treasure this last, because I heard so many critics and sometimes suggestions, and people's imagination just fly crazy about, because it's in a platform that it makes you kind of like, oh, I wish they were this, and their bar is set very high. But your comment about integrating tiny cards and podcasts into the assignments, I treasure this, because it just wraps up things that I see coming back periodically. So it seems like the teachers will really appreciate to have that, and it's I will keep that in my in the back of my head every time that somebody asks me, okay, well, what are the most remarkable requests?
Thanks. Yeah, I think it'd be very useful.
Is there anything that you want to add?
The only thing is, I just think that it's really amazing that Duolingo offers this to begin with, because it's really not something that I can see profits the company realistically. So the fact that this resource has been made available and it's user-friendly and it's something that teachers can use and students can have access to, it's really an amazing thing to me that the company is willing to add resources for this when they don't have to, obviously. So it's one of the things that actually kind of endears me more to Duolingo, that they offer this service to teachers, because it is so valuable and it's so easy to use. I love that they offer this.
Yes, and you have an insight from teaching to a low resources school, so the value that it might change a person's life to be able to speak in a kind of uncommon language like Korean, and it can open doors. Yeah,
it really can. And in a ESL environment, a lot of times, sorry, my dog just in an ESL environment, a lot of times you have students from many different language backgrounds, and so sometimes that can be very difficult to customize the lesson plan for it, and being able to have the individualized learning that Duolingo allows you to have. So you could have somebody who's let me try that again. You can have people who have a lot of different language backgrounds. So somebody who their home language is Spanish, they're learning English. You got someone whose home language is Chinese and they're learning English. And although having, sorry, I forgot the word I was looking for. Let's see. Having an environment where everybody is exposed to English all the time and you're speaking English all the time, that's great, but there is also something to be said for some sort of support that includes their native language, because there are just some things that all the talking in the world that I do is not going to mean the same thing as when they have something in their own native language to help them out. So when you have a mixture of students like that, it's really great to have so many different trees to choose from with Duolingo and help them on their journey, especially if you can supplement it outside the classroom.
Well, Kristen, thanks so much. We'll stay here. I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay, no problem.
And we will stay talking. Thanks so much for being part of this presentation. It will, we don't stop until we win the Grammys. Thanks so much. Hello, we are with Joe Mencarini, obviously Italian ascendant like me, right? With that last name. And he is one of our expert teachers in our educator network. And tell us, Joe, a little bit about you, your background as a teacher. How long have you been using Duolingo?
Yeah, so I've been teaching at my current position for, I think this is my 6th year now. That's at middle school in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Before that, I was out north of Philly. I teach German, but I'm also certified to teach Spanish. So when they need me to, I do that as well.
Okay.
Let's see. I think I joined the Duolingo Educator Network back in 2014.
Wow.
You
have much more seniority than I have.
And I've loved it ever since. I have it as an integral part of my my curriculum.
Okay. And how old are your students?
You said how old?
Yes.
Grades 6 through 8, so 11 to 14 roughly.
Okay. That's a challenging age, right?
It's fun.
There is too much going on in those heads.
Oh, definitely.
So what do you do to keep them motivated, especially at that age, right?
Yeah, in terms of Duolingo or in general?
Oh, just for the learning process of the language, but yes, also with Duolingo.
Yeah, so I have a token economy system set up in my classroom. So when they do certain challenge activities or compete in in-class games, that sort of thing, they earn what I call euros, and then they use those euros to buy things in my classroom store.
Okay. It's like Chuck E. Cheese?
A little bit, yeah. And so one of the things I offer with Duolingo is for every 10-day streak that the students get, they get 10 euros that they can use to buy stuff in my store.
Okay. And does that work?
I definitely have some takers, yeah.
Okay.
I have a 6th grader right now with a 110-day streak, so.
And I assume that you will also have self-motivated students, right?
Definitely. Yeah, you can definitely tell who's extrinsically versus intrinsically motivated to learn the language.
Mm-hmm.
But I also assign it as part of my homework. So say for the month of February, I have my students in a Duolingo classroom, and they have to have 10 active days within the month. So at the end of the month, I look back in the previous 30-day period and I say, okay, this student was active 15 days, so that counts. But if they're only active, say 6 or 7, they wouldn't get full credit. Okay. But on top of that is the streak bonus idea, where they get more the more work they put into it.
All right, so sounds pretty. I think you're a good teacher. Even though when they are away from the school, they still have to kind of deliver to you.
Yeah,
that's good. Let me ask you. Do you take Duolingo, the platform, and you are free to make your critics about Duolingo. We don't expect that everything is gonna be like flattering for the platform. Now, you take it as is, or you need to make a lot of adaptations, and if you do, what type of adaptations are they?
So I definitely use the platform as is in terms of establishing classrooms, but I found little hacks along the way. Like I have my students go in and change their profile name to like last name, comma, first name. That allows me to generate an alphabetized class list that then I can reference pretty easily.
Okay. I think, but now we did it, right? Now I think you were celebrating it in the Educator Network because there is the option to order people by their alphabetically, but their first name, not their last name.
Right, yeah. So in my roster, since it goes by last name, I just found that as a hack to do it that way.
Okay, all right. And so, and other than the rooster, what else do you have to adapt?
Aside from that, just finding different ways of analyzing what they're doing. I definitely like a lot of the features of examining their course progress through the drop-down menu, and also like I was saying earlier, the days active. So I've started downloading the CSV files that I'm able to get and use that data to sort of extrapolate where the student is and where they're going. That's one thing. I also sometimes assign XP challenges where, say I'm out for a day, I just say, okay, your assignment for the sub is to get 100 XP. And so that way the platform's really easy, where I just go and create the assignment, and then I can see in real time, even, you know, I'm sitting at home seeing how far the students are getting in a given period at a time. But I think
tell me.
The ability to test out of levels has definitely changed the game with that one. So you get students that, you know, I'll look at their progress and they'll have done like basics 2 15 times. And then I have other kids where they just tested out of it real quick and got 150 XP.
So I'm curious, you know, do you use Google Classroom?
We don't in my school. We have a Schoology as our primary way of organizing and distributing information and files and stuff like that. I know there's Google Classroom compatibility, but we haven't explored that yet.
Okay, all right. So next question is, any secret to get the most out of the platform? Anything that is your own brain baby that you know want to share with other teachers?
Yeah, so what I do is front load a lot of, I guess, metacognitive awareness. When I sign the students up for Duolingo, I start them in 6th grade, and I find it's really helpful just to tell them why it works the way it works, and tell them what my expectations are. So every once in a while I get kids that are doing an assignment and they'll do, you know, 15 lessons in one night just to get the credit for it. And what I'll tell them is, okay, you get the credit for that, but it doesn't really work that way.
Right.
So I start with I show them like the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, and why spaced repetition works the way it works, and why 5 or 10 minutes a day is better than
60 minutes.
Bunch. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I encourage them to set their daily XP goals lower, 1, 5, 10, somewhere in there. You get the kids that are like, well, what about 20 and 50? And I'm like, well, I don't actually recommend that. So just making them aware of how their brain works, I think, primes them to know why they're doing things a certain way. And then what I'll do is use a lot of the vocabulary and grammatical concepts that are taught in the tree, and reinforce those through gamification in the classroom through, say, GimKit or Quizlet Live or Kahoot or one of the other popular middle school targeted platforms that are available now. So the kids are seeing the same words in one and extrapolating them and using them in other contexts as well. Really reinforce.
Yeah, that's very important. Do you use Duolingo in the classroom, like with the projector, like a collective type of activity, or?
I generally don't. What I'll do is I'll give them time here and there to independently do it. But I encourage headphones just so everybody's not hearing everybody all at once. But ideally, I want every kid engaged at once. And so I've seen people do that before, and I think it has good contexts when it's used appropriately. But I find it's better just to set everybody on their individual screens. And we have a collective sort of downtime at the end of the day where all students are supposed to work on classwork and upcoming homework assignments and meet with teachers. And it's a great thing just to throw at them and say, oh, you don't have anything to do right now? How about some Duolingo?
Right. And Joe, so how different are the levels of your students? They're all like level up at the same
So I get everybody starting at 6th grade just for an exploratory half year. They do half a year of Spanish, half a year of German. And then for 7th and 8th grade, I sort of work them through basically the equivalent of a level 1 curriculum. So what I see is that the kids who really push themselves with Duolingo, they're much more adept at skills that we encounter later on.
Right.
Say we'll come to a grammatical lesson on, say, modal verbs or something like that, and a lot of my 8th graders will go, oh, I saw this in Duolingo, I already know it all. Whereas the kids who don't necessarily have that fastidiousness to get on and do their lessons and complete the assignments as I give them are like, no, I've never seen this before.
Right.
And so I see sort of a gap where the students who are motivated to do Duolingo exhibit that retention later on, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And well, I think I'm gonna let you go soon. I have one more question. Do you have any suggestion or advice for the other teachers who use Duolingo? Like what is like what percentage of your class time is 60-70% less?
I would say I front load a lot, and then I have it sort of passive in the background. So it's my ongoing homework assignments. I don't generally give much homework aside from that. So as long as they're in the classroom and they know what their monthly assignment is, it counts for about 10% of their grade to do the assignments that I give. But in terms of class time, not much unless it's appropriate to the moment or the skill that I'm talking about in class.
And so what's your suggestion, advice for the other teachers who also use Duolingo as a, support for their education?
I would say one of the biggest suggestions I have is take what the students are using or take what they're learning in Duolingo and make those extra reinforcers outside. So they're not just seeing the content solely in Duolingo, but also a more universally visible presence of the same vocab across multiple platforms. And also to incorporate those, the phrases that are taught, I try to keep the same setup. Like if Duolingo has a way that it's been teaching, say, how are you? I generally roll with that in the rest of the curriculum. So simplification and universal application. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, and I mentioned that you as like an active teacher. I taught like many years ago, but I'm not doing it anymore. So the instance of the production of the language, right? That, it's like social media, like you are like posting on Facebook, making comments. You think you are brave, that you are so outgoing, right? But when you have it like the real contact with the person, right? And the minute that you have to make a production of use the language actively, it's a completely different animal, right?
Yeah. And I like to pull in, there's a lot of YouTubers coming out right now, especially for German. There's like this whole community of like professional football players in Germany that videotape themselves learning German, going out and then failing miserably in public. And I make it a point to show those videos in class, because it's one thing to, repeat the phrase 20 times on Duolingo and know what it means. But that production element, like you said, is totally different. And they have to know that failure is okay. But one of the big reasons I love Duolingo is because of the gamification and the built-in formative assessment piece to it, where they can fail, they just get the sentence wrong, but then they see it 5 minutes later and they're like, oh, okay, I remember this and I know why I messed it up and I know what I need to do different this time. And there's no penalty aside from just having to repeat it later on. And I think that's a really good skill to reinforce, where you're going to mess up. You're going to mess up thousands of times when you learn a language, but you have to in order to get more comfortable. Right.
And every new speaker that you come across is a brand new challenge. You don't know if you're going to understand what they say. You feel like, oh, I'm back 10 levels. But it's just, we all, like, you are in languages. I live 24/7, like, at school in some way, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's a lifestyle. It's 24/7, like, challenge.
Yeah.
So Joe, I know you're busy. I'm gonna let you go. I want to really thank you for being part of this. It's gonna look pretty good at the end. And yeah, we will make an assemble with you and a few other teachers, and we'll keep you posted about the future of this, like, you know, the star bomb that started just now.
There you go. Cool.
All right, bye, Joe. Thanks so much. We keep in touch through Slack.